Texas just made a bold move that left California's leadership in complete disbelief. After years of butting heads with California over heavy regulations and political drama, Elon Musk finally decided he'd had enough. He packed up SpaceX's headquarters and took it all the way to Texas. And he didn't just move the company. He went a step further. He built an entirely new city from scratch. That city is called Starbase. And with full backing from the Texas government, Musk is now pushing the limits of aerospace innovation like never before. The idea is simple but massive. Turn the birthplace of the Starship rocket into one of the fastest-growing tech capitals in America. A place where ambition isn't stalled by red tape. A place where building the future is more than just a dream. So what exactly did Texas do that shocked everyone? Let's dive into this incredible transformation and how it's shaping the future of SpaceX. Back in July 2024, news broke that SpaceX, the aerospace giant once rooted in Hawthorne, California, had officially begun relocating its headquarters to South Texas. The news hit the California space scene like a thunderbolt. Smaller companies weren't just losing a neighbor, they were losing their gravitational anchor. SpaceX wasn't just another business, it was the crown jewel of the local space ecosystem. When a titan like SpaceX leaves, the ripple effect is enormous. Talent dries up, investors shift focus, and the innovation energy that once made the region a magnet starts to fade. For Elon Musk, the decision to leave California behind wasn't just logical, it was inevitable. Texas welcomed him and his vision with open arms. Fewer regulations, lower costs, and unwavering support from top state officials made the Lone Star State the perfect home for scaling up the Starship program. California, with its long list of environmental hurdles and sky-high taxes, simply couldn't compete. This wasn't the first time Musk had hinted at his dream. Back in March 2021, he tweeted about creating the city of Starbase, Texas. It sounded wild at the time, but now in 2025, that vision has become real. On May 3rd, a local vote made it official. According to the Cameron County Elections Department, 212 residents voted in favor of making Starbase a recognized Type C city. Only 6 voted against it. Out of 283 eligible voters, just 143 were needed to pass the motion. It wasn't even close. The results were so decisive that Cameron County will complete certification within 2 weeks, followed by a judge's final order. Elon Musk didn't waste any time celebrating. He confirmed the news on X, writing, "Starbase, Texas is now a real city." His excitement was clear, and for good reason. Behind this moment, Texas played a leading role, supporting Musk in ways that likely left California lawmakers grinding their teeth. It all started in December 2024, when SpaceX filed a petition to hold an election to officially create the city. The request was sent to Cameron County Judge Eddie Trevino. In just 3 months, he verified and approved it, allowing the election to move forward by May. No delays, no drama, just action. But Texas didn't stop there. State lawmakers took things to a whole new level. Senator Adam Hinojosa introduced a bill that could transfer control over weekday beach closures at Boca Chica, now Starbase, from Cameron County directly to the new city. Why? To simplify rocket launch logistics. The bill passed the Texas Senate and is now waiting for approval in the House. If it becomes law, SpaceX would gain total authority to shut down nearby areas during launches without waiting for county approvals. This kind of flexibility is crucial for a company planning to increase launches from 5 a year to possibly 25. Becoming an official city gives SpaceX a major edge. Starbase can now handle its own zoning, issue building permits, and plan urban development, all without interference from Cameron County. That means faster construction of housing for up to 3,500 employees, as well as essential services like schools, hospitals, and retail areas. Everything SpaceX needs to support a growing community of engineers, scientists, and contractors. And if the proposed bill passes, weekday closures of Boca Chica Beach and State Highway 4 would be completely under SpaceX's control. No more dealing with county court schedules. No more red tape. It's about efficiency, autonomy, and long-term vision. With that kind of freedom, SpaceX can fully synchronize city development with rocket testing and launches. No external delays. That level of synergy could be the secret weapon behind Musk's Mars ambitions. To get this kind of legislative and logistical support, SpaceX had to build a serious relationship with the state of Texas, and it didn't happen overnight. SpaceX has been quietly growing its footprint in Texas since 2003. That's when the company took over the McGregor site from a failed rocket startup called Beale Aerospace. The facility already had engine test stands, making it the perfect base for what SpaceX needed. In contrast to California, where construction costs are astronomical and permitting takes forever, Texas made it easy to hit the ground running. McGregor quickly evolved into SpaceX's rocket engine testing hub. The next big leap came in August 2014, when the company chose Boca Chica as its private launch site. It wasn't called Starbase yet, but that decision laid the foundation. Initially, the site was meant for Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy rockets, but by 2018, Musk changed course. Starbase would now focus exclusively on the Starship program, his most ambitious project yet. Cameron County stepped up in a big way to support the vision. The local government created the Cameron County Spaceport Development Corporation, or CSPDC, to assist with infrastructure, land transfers, and long-term planning. In May 2015, they handed over 25 parcels of land to SpaceX, an essential move for events, construction staging, and future expansion. It was clear that this wasn't just about business. It was a full partnership. Local officials like Commissioner Alex Dominguez and Sofia Benavides championed tax breaks and economic support for SpaceX. They saw it as a once-in-a-generation opportunity to uplift a region plagued by high poverty and unemployment, and it worked. Since Starbase construction began, thousands of full-time and contractor jobs have been created, giving new life to the Rio Grande Valley. Taxes were a huge part of the equation. For a company the size of SpaceX, California's corporate tax rate of 8.84% was a major burden. Add in the progressive personal income tax, which can hit as high as 13.3%, and the math just didn't work out. Employees were losing massive chunks of their pay. In contrast, Texas doesn't have a traditional corporate income tax. It uses a franchise tax, but it only applies to businesses making over $2.47 million a year. And even then, the rate is much lower. That alone makes a massive difference in long-term cost planning. Building Starbase in Texas likely saved SpaceX hundreds of millions, possibly even billions, compared to what it would have cost in California. And in exchange, Musk made sure his support went both ways. Since 2014, SpaceX and its contractors have contributed over $500,000 to the campaigns of more than 24 Texas officials. Those contributions helped solidify long-term alliances with local and state leaders who now see SpaceX as a partner in Texas's future. And Musk didn't stop at rockets and real estate. Through his foundation, he donated $100 million to build a K-12 STEM school in Austin, focused on science, technology, engineering, and math. The goal? To create a talent pipeline for the next generation of aerospace engineers, people who might one day live and work in Starbase or even on Mars. This isn't just business. It's a long-term investment in the future. Starbase, from a remote outpost into a fully incorporated city, isn't just a story about infrastructure, it's a statement. It's Elon Musk doubling down on a vision that stretches far beyond conventional business. With the backing of a supportive Texas government, low regulatory interference, and a workforce mostly composed of passionate SpaceX employees, Starbase, is becoming the perfect launchpad for the next phase of human space exploration. The city's formation is a strategic move that gives SpaceX more control over local governance and development. No more having to navigate through layers of bureaucracy just to get things done. Instead, Musk now essentially has a custom-built city, with a government and community almost entirely aligned with his mission to Mars. It's not just smart, it's revolutionary. And to those who have been watching closely, it feels almost inevitable. As more people flock to this once sleepy part of Texas, the landscape is evolving fast. Roads are being laid out, communication infrastructure is expanding, and housing is rising to accommodate the growing number of SpaceX engineers, builders, and innovators. The area, once dotted with fishing villages and empty shorelines, is rapidly becoming one of the most unique urban centers in America, an experimental fusion of industry, science, and civic planning. With Musk leading the charge, Starbase isn't just a workplace. It's a futuristic colony on Earth, a prototype for what life might eventually look like on the Moon or Mars. And that's exactly how Musk sees it. A test bed for interplanetary living. Everything from transportation systems to emergency services will be fine-tuned here before being replicated on another planet. In Musk's eyes, this isn't just city building, it's civilization building. Critics argue that building a private city essentially owned and operated by a single company raises ethical and legal concerns. They worry about the consolidation of power, the lack of traditional civic checks and balances, and what it means for the rights of non-employee residents. But Musk's supporters counter that this is no ordinary company. SpaceX is arguably humanity's best shot at becoming a multiplanetary species. And if achieving that means bending some traditional norms, they say it's a worthy trade-off. Besides, the residents of Starbase are not complaining. On the contrary, the community is energized, focused, and unified around a shared goal. They aren't just living next to greatness, they're part of it. Looking ahead, the success of Starbase will likely inspire other tech visionaries to think bigger, literally. Why stop at innovation inside a factory or lab when you can build entire cities engineered around your mission? It's a bold new model for progress, one where physical space is designed not just for living, but for launching humanity into the future. Starbase may be the first of its kind, but it certainly won't be the last. Elon Musk has planted a flag in Texas, not just for SpaceX, but for the next generation of human exploration. And whether you're a supporter or a skeptic, one thing is clear. The age of the company town has returned. Only this time, it's aiming for the stars. Turning Starbase into a city isn't just a symbolic move. It represents a new level of ambition for SpaceX. By incorporating, SpaceX gains broader authority and more streamlined control over its operational landscape. This means fewer bureaucratic hurdles, especially when it comes to conducting Starship tests and launches. Right now, the company is trying to ramp up its annual launch cadence from 5 to 25, a massive leap that would make Starbase one of the busiest spaceports on the planet. But that growth still depends heavily on approvals from the Federal Aviation Administration, or FAA. SpaceX can't just launch whenever it wants without getting green lights from regulators. And those regulators are constantly navigating pressure from various environmental groups concerned about the potential ecological damage of this rapid expansion. That tension is very real. SpaceX's operations have drawn ongoing scrutiny from environmental agencies and advocacy groups. Critics argue that the rocket launches and test activities disrupt wildlife in the sensitive coastal ecosystems near Boca Chica. They point to increasing light pollution from Starbase as a major issue, especially because it affects nocturnal species that rely on darkness for survival. There's also the problem of rocket debris, chunks of material falling into nearby habitats or the Gulf, threatening marine and land-based species. These concerns have sparked ongoing debates about how to balance innovation and technology with environmental responsibility. Environmental groups have pushed hard for tighter oversight of SpaceX's activities, believing that unchecked expansion could set a dangerous precedent. That pressure led to real consequences in 2024 when SpaceX was hit with fines totaling nearly $150,000 from two major regulatory bodies, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, and the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, TCEQ. The penalties stemmed from violations tied to wastewater discharge. More specifically, the agencies cited improper handling of industrial wastewater at the Starbase facility, raising concerns about pollutants reaching local ecosystems. SpaceX responded to the fines by framing the situation as an administrative issue, mainly about paperwork and documentation rather than any malicious intent. The company emphasized that it's still committed to complying with environmental regulations and said it's already taking steps to prevent future problems, including installing better wastewater treatment systems and increasing internal audits. Still, once Starbase becomes a city, things could change significantly. Regulatory oversight from external agencies may become more limited, which would give SpaceX more freedom to manage its operations with fewer roadblocks. In theory, this would allow for smoother and more frequent Starship launches. To address public concern, SpaceX says it remains transparent about its environmental measures and shares documentation with the public. This includes outlining efforts to protect the coastal region around Boca Chica and mitigate potential environmental harm. They're trying to reassure conservationists that progress doesn't have to come at the cost of the planet. Whether those efforts are enough remains a point of contention, especially among people who've lived in the area for generations and don't want to lose their connection to the land and the beach. Elon Musk's success didn't happen by chance. His long-term vision has always set him apart, and that vision includes seeing Texas not just as a home base, but as a strategic launch pad for the future. That's why he moved the headquarters of multiple companies, including X Corp and The Boring Company, from California to Bastrop, Texas. Bastrop is a small town just outside Austin, and it's about a 5.5-hour drive north of Starbase. While California pushed back against SpaceX due to environmental restrictions and political disagreements, Texas rolled out the red carpet. The state offered over $20 million in incentives, including a $15.3 million grant from the Texas Semiconductor Innovation Fund in 2025 to expand SpaceX's Bastrop facility. That investment is expected to create more than 400 jobs and generate over $280 million in economic impact. SpaceX didn't stop there. A separate $7.5 million grant from the newly established Texas Space Commission supported a vertically integrated production site, and Cameron County offered $2 million in tax breaks over a decade. The Brownsville Economic Development Council added another $3 million in incentives to the pot. Infrastructure improvements have also been part of the state's efforts to support SpaceX. Back in 2022, Texas approved the abandonment of 4 public roads in Boca Chica to give SpaceX better land access. The state also reaffirmed a 2013 agreement allowing the county to close Boca Chica Beach on launch days, a measure that tries to balance public beach access with operational needs. And with House Bill 3447 in 2023, Texas created new agencies to drive aerospace innovation and research, cementing the state's role in space exploration. Despite all this support, the idea of turning Starbase into an official city has sparked major controversy. High-ranking Texas officials and local residents remain divided. Supporters say it's a necessary step to accelerate progress and bring more prosperity to the Rio Grande Valley. Critics, however, worry that Musk's growing influence could lead to overreach. They point to sonic booms, road closures, debris, and the gradual reduction of public access to Boca Chica Beach. Some fear that as an incorporated city, SpaceX could push aside local voices and gain the power to enforce its own rules, bypassing traditional regulatory structures. The highest-ranking official in Cameron County, Judge Eddie Trevino Jr., opposed the bill that would give Starbase authority to close access routes. Residents like 65-year-old Madrino, who grew up fishing in the area, share those fears and hope. Their traditions won't be erased. Madrino represents the tension between past and future in this remote part of South Texas. He still uses a flip phone and jokes about taking on a global tech giant with old-school tools. On a recent trip, he drove through a now-congested access point to the beach, then navigated 3 miles of sand to reach the U.S.-Mexico border where the Rio Grande meets the Gulf. For him, Boca Chica is more than a launch site. It's a place of memories and family. Just because SpaceX is in doesn't mean Boca Chica Beach is out, he said. Right now, Cameron County handles road closures and updates residents via text alerts. But a new bill proposed in spring 2025 would give Starbase's future mayor the power to control beach access during weekdays, shifting that authority away from local government. That bill passed the Texas Senate, but stalled in a House committee. Judge Trevino called the bill's failure a pleasant surprise, but warned that it could return. He said disagreements with SpaceX are likely, but he sees the company's presence as a net gain for the region's economy, comparing it to Cape Canaveral's transformation in the 1960s. The jobs, the investment, the excitement, it's been a positive force, he explained. But others, like Jared Hockema, city manager of Port Isabel and chair of the county's Democratic Party, remain cautious. He suspects the city proposal is partly an attempt to sidestep government oversight, especially considering Musk's history of criticizing regulations. Are you using public power to benefit private interests? He asked. It's a fair question in a situation where one company holds so much sway. Even supporters like Anthony Gomez, who owns Rocket Ranch, a glamping site for space enthusiasts, acknowledge that SpaceX is moving faster than local government can keep up with. Gomez, originally from Miami, runs a viewing platform just 3.7 miles from the Starship launch pad. He sells tickets to up to 300 people at $150 apiece and remains deeply involved with the SpaceX community. He believes critics don't see the full picture and that politics have clouded public perception. For Gomez, Starbase City represents an exciting new chapter in the human story, an era where innovation and exploration are front and center. You're looking at the apex of all human technology, he said. All the achievements we've made. It's right here. That's all for today's episode. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.